Hello, welcome to Shaping Tomorrow. This event is part of the Erasmus project for a better future training course for an integrated approach on science and human rights education, which is coordinated by the Romanian Secular-Humanist Association, for which I work, and is done in partnership with Values, Virtues, and Integrity Foundation from Bulgaria, and also with Humanists Malta. And I will take the chance to say hi to our partners from Malta and Bulgaria. Our goal today is to explore how combining science and human rights can enhance youth education and can benefit communities worldwide. And we have an excited lineup of presentation and interactive sessions planned for you. We'll start with a keynote speech from my colleague Patricia, and then she's the brain behind this project. Afterwards, we will have some information about the best practice guide that we have created and which we will share with you. It's available in English, in Romanian, and Bulgarian. Then we'll listen to a few words from our partners and their experience with the project, and some stories from our youth workers that have done learning sessions in different countries and have integrated what we are telling you now today. And we'll follow that with some exercises that we have prepared for you and an interactive Q&A. And we'll finish strong with ideas and suggestions for the future. First of all, I would like to get to know each other a little bit. And I want you now to please tell us where you are from. Oh, just 10 responses so far, but there keep coming. Okay. Many countries today. Okay, 22 responses, but there are more than 60 of us, so we will wait for a little bit because I'm really curious to see if from where are you joining us. Oh, someone from Tunisia, really nice. Hi. I see that some of you are also writing in the chat, and that is really exciting for me. But there are many countries that I haven't yet visited. So the project that we have been working on and the guide that we're going to share with you have information and have exercises that can be adapted to each of your communities. And probably you should have them as examples and maybe adapt them to your culture, to the needs of your communities and so on. But we'll hear more about this from during the meeting we have today. And I think we should give this 1 more minute, and then we will start with the keynote address. If you have questions, please note your questions, and you're gonna be able to address them in the Q&A section at the end. I see someone asking if we could post the link to the guide in the chat. You will get the guide afterwards, but also one of my colleagues we're gonna share the link with you here in the chat. Okay. Yeah, if someone wants to keep sharing on Menti, that's fine, but I'm gonna stop that and get back to the presentation on the screen. And I will give the floor to my colleague, Patricia, and stop talking for a while. So go ahead, Patricia.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. We already met, so-called, by email. I was very delighted to see that so many of you wanted to hear more about our project. And I will be thrilled today to talk a little bit about the intersection between science and human rights. These fields may seem distinct at first, with no relation to each other at first sight, but in real life, they are deeply interconnected. While science provides us with the tools to understand our world, human rights ensure that we use this knowledge to benefit us all. And as an introduction, I would like to highlight a few points and give you a couple of arguments on why education about this intersection is important for you, for the young people, and for all of us. As you can see, most of the problems that we face every day as humanity, from ethnic conflicts to armed conflicts, to overpopulation, limitation of reproductive rights, pollution or extreme environment, extreme poverty. This is just to name a few of the most persistent problems that we hear on news every day. All these problems can't be solved without integrating knowledge from sciences, known as natural and exact sciences, with knowledge from the social sciences and humanities, where human rights belong. So only through fluency across these branches of knowledge will we gain a clear view and a balanced perspective and understanding of the world as it is, and not as seen through the lens of one or another ideology or dogma. So combining science and human rights education, having an all-inclusive approach, is essential for cultivating a balanced and informed society. Yet, in reality, the vast majority of us don't always take this turn when looking for solutions for our problems. In real life, we find multiple indications of a flawed understanding of science, of the general public, and a weak sense when it comes to critical thinking, which also leads to misconceptions and prejudices against certain fields of science or against certain fields of humanities. All these facts are reflected in a lot of problems that plague our societies. And one significant indicator in this regard is the popularity of pseudoscience in a variety of forms, from science denialism, anti-science ideologies, to conspiracy theories, and you may continue adding other forms. Moreover, I thought that it would be important to mention then that when looking at our political leaders, we can see that most of them have a background that's almost exclusively in humanities and social sciences, having little or no knowledge about sciences, about natural sciences, which leads to decisions that are often lopsided. And this is also true about most of the journalists, media, opinion leaders, influencers. So in this case, the responsibility lays even more on each one of us to constantly inform and educate ourselves, to be responsible citizens and engage in decision-making, public debates, and everything that has to do with policy-making process. From another angle, we can also observe that there is a tendency towards the absolutization of human rights, particularly among the human rights defenders. So although equal and indivisible, in concrete life situations, most human rights have their limits and can be analyzed only from case to case. Most of the times, we find ourselves in conflicting human rights situations when certain rights prevail while other rights fall on the second or lower places. And then as an example, we enjoy plenty of benefits from the development of information technology. Our online meeting today is possible thanks to digital science, but the same thing may sometimes be in conflict with our freedom of expression or with the right to privacy and personal data protection. Another example would be the recent pandemic, which highlighted a major conflict between science and fake news and conspiracy theories, with consequences on collective health, while on the other hand, it brought attention to the conflict between the right to individual autonomy and collective rights to health and ultimately life. So the pandemic led to the limitation of some rights for medical reasons. Human rights are not a black and white matter. Every situation has to be analyzed in its context. There are many nuances and decisions can only be made for each specific case. This is why we must educate ourselves and educate our youth to be able to think around all these circuits and not leave this only for politicians and intellectuals. As final dimensions of this science-human rights integrated approach, I would like to highlight, first of all, the moral imperative of humanism, where human rights principles must guide scientific discoveries and their use. As youth workers and educators, our final goal should be to help young people understand the need to change their attitude and to help them answer this very simple question. What is the relation between science and human rights, and how is that important for our common good? Having this awareness about the intersection between science and human rights and integrating this approach in education can empower young people to think critically and to advocate for themselves and for the others, and in this way to drive positive change in their communities. Next on the screen, you can see a table highlighting some basic differences between science and human rights. Of course, it's self-evident that these fields are separate orders of knowledge, but we can't always tell why at first. A main difference is that these fields have different objects of study. While science studies reality by investigating objects, facts, and natural phenomena, human rights refer to subjects as individuals. Science studies objects regardless of our aspirations, ethical or moral values, seeking causal deterministic relations, while for human rights, moral ethical values are the binding force. As opposed to science, which can proceed only when emotions are excluded, human rights build around emotions, which play a foundational role in their establishment. As you can see, science uses a particular way of studying reality, namely the scientific method. This is the process of objectively establishing facts through testing and experimentation. And as you can briefly see on the next screen, the scientific method involves many steps, and it's a very laborious process and also self-correcting process based on evidence. So the scientific method is applied broadly in science across many fields. It's not unique to any field, and social sciences have also borrowed it. For those of you who haven't heard of the scientific method, the internet has plenty of information about it, and I will not go into details. But it's very important to be aware of this difference between these fields. As I mentioned earlier, human rights are innate rights. We have them simply because we are humans. They are not granted by any state. Yet, from declaring our aspirations to giving them effect in our societies, there is a long path and a never-ending fight to maintain them once achieved. It's very important not to confuse a declaration, such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, with a law. Another important idea is that of living human rights. Human rights are alive and constantly moving. They are so relevant today as society is undergoing radical transformations, as always, and in the light of these transformations, human rights should correspond to the needs and standards of the contemporary society, without disregarding the past, of course, but with full consideration of the future. For example, while not long ago the right to privacy was interpreted in a rather narrow spectrum, nowadays it's becoming increasingly broad, recognizing a person's right to clarify certain details of their private life, which until not long ago, this seemed totally inconceivable. We also live in the context of the digital era, and we face the challenge to ensure that the same rights that people have offline are also protected online. So we have a lot of challenges to deal with, and we will need to adapt the way we look at human rights as well. Human rights as a tool are important because most of all, because they highlight the value of each person and they highlight the respect for persons as choosers. This is intuitive, but I wanted to stress this aspect. As I mentioned earlier about the difference between law and the declaration, I thought it would be important to present you a little bit about this. It's very important not to confuse declarations with laws. Declarations are just some international instruments that have the aim to declare certain aspirations. They are not legally binding. They have no sanctions if they are not respected, and they are created merely as guidelines for the international community in order to achieve a higher order of welfare and civilization. Laws, on the contrary, are legally binding, they have sanctions, and they are issued through the coercive force of the state. Although one of our main instruments is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as youth workers and educators, we should not stick to its letter, but to its spirit. The more so, as we are here within a non-formal education project for young people, and our approach is to be applied in ways that blend learning and fun in a constructive manner, with no requirements for a deeper legal understanding, which is out of scope for this type of activities. That's why I wanted to highlight the need to approach human rights through the basic principle of human dignity, which is intuitive for all of us, no matter the age and level of knowledge and understanding. It's a universal principle as old as humanity itself and the foundational basis for the human rights. And by having this simple approach, we can easily adapt activities for different ages and backgrounds, from smaller children to young people and adults, depending on their level of understanding. Of course, in the protection of human rights, ethical and moral considerations are compulsory and fundamental in guiding the scientific practices. And here we note values like respect, trustworthiness, fairness, caring, kindness, and any other values, positive values that you can think of. Here, I wanted to briefly present the core principles of human rights, first set out in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Again, they are intuitive and most of us are already aware of them, so I won't detail. But it's important to be aware and to educate youth that rights also entail obligations and responsibilities. We are right holders, but also duty bearers. So one person's right is another person's obligation. My right is your obligation and vice versa. One thing that is less known by the general public when it comes to human rights is that the Universal Declaration recognizes science as a cultural right. Article 27, which is also known as the right to science, basically means the right to benefit from the scientific progress and its applications. And it's important to promote it and to make it more known among the public, as this is a very useful tool for civic activism and for advancing human rights. Basically, with this article, science is recognized as an expression of human creativity, and as opposed to other forms of culture, we note that science produces and offers us benefits in the form of applied knowledge. For example, let's think of how the development of spectacles or eyeglasses has improved vision around the world, or sight. Of course, this right includes scientific freedom, which is very important for scientists to be able to use their creativity without boundaries. On the next slide, I picked a tiny number of interconnections between science and human rights to show you how this reflects in real world. Basically, human rights could be protected mainly as a result of scientific progress. We wouldn't have human rights if we didn't have a capability to develop science. So a world without science is difficult, if not impossible, to imagine by most of us. The computers, the phones, the internet, the electricity that we're using, the drinking water that we have access to, the drugs and cures that we treat diseases with and prevent infections. Science's positive impact in our life is tremendous. And these developments are so natural that we take their benefits for granted. Science and human rights are linked in many ways, and to explore this interplay between them, we suggest looking both at how science impacts human rights and how human rights impact science. And in the best practice guide that we developed in this within this project, you will find more details about this. One aspect that I would like to insist on is the fact that when it comes to how science impacts human rights, we of course take into consideration not only the positive but also the negative effects. And the most common examples when it comes to negative effects are the wars, military violence in general, harming experiments done on people, and so on. And we wanted to emphasize from the beginning that science itself has never done harm. Science is nothing but a system of thought that represents the accumulation and consideration of knowledge about the world and the universe. The positive and negative effects depend solely on what we as society are making with science. That's why education about human rights and ethical education is so important. On the screen, I listed the way science helps to women's empowerment, sexual minorities empowerment, ethnic minority groups. I picked an example. The list is huge. Of course, we can all look around us and see many ways the science impacts our life. This is an image that we took during the training course that we had in this project. It's one of my favorite pictures, and I think it shows what we wanted to transmit further with this project. The emotion that comes along with science when we use it to make a better world together, and when we use it to protect our lives and the lives of our loved ones. I hope you like it as much as I do. I was mentioning absolute and relative rights at the beginning of the presentation, and I thought that it would be useful for you to see how they are distinct from each other. So basically, all the rights are, as I said, they are more equal and indivisible, but in concrete situations, some rights become more important than others, simply because they are more, well, first of all, you need to be alive to be able to enjoy other rights. So we have a number of, they say, 4 absolute rights, which are the right to life, the right to be free from torture, no slavery, and the right not to be punished and, to several procedures twice for the same facts. So basically, except all these 4 rights, all the others can be negotiated and modified depending on the context. But when they clash, when you find one absolute right with a relative right together, the absolute right will prevail no matter what. It's in the nature of things and the nature of life. Further on, I wanted to briefly present the best practice guide. This event is taking place because we wanted to launch the best practice guide in the international environment as well. This guide was developed for youth workers, educators, and for any person interested in the topic. As Monica, my colleague, said, it was translated in English, Romanian, and Bulgarian. And we started our journey in the autumn last year when we organized a one-week training course in Romania, in person, not online. At this training, we had 15 youth workers from Romania, Malta, and Bulgaria. And after the training course, each youth worker organized a series of activities for young people from their communities, for a total of up to 200 or 250 young people from very different backgrounds, with the ages ranging from 14 to 30. And we had youth from ethnic minorities, rural deprived areas, or an isolated island, as it was the case in Malta. We had high schoolers, students, refugees, young people with learning difficulties who had problems staying focused. For all these situations, our youth workers used their creativity and found very ingenious ways to gather youth's attention. And in our guide, you will find case studies and inspirational stories. You will find concrete examples and methods and practical advice, and also resources that you can use in your activities to make this topic impactful among young people. Here you can see the contents of the guide. I won't go through it, but I encourage you to read it. And if you want, you can let us know your feedback afterwards. The guide can be downloaded from Salto Youth in the toolbox for trainers, but you will also receive it by email after this webinar, along with other training materials that we developed within the project. I hope that I aroused your interest and curiosity to read it and to use it in your activities. That was all from me for now. If you have any questions, I will be glad to answer.
Thank you, Patricia. I think we can wait until the Q&A section for the questions, so we don't take too long with and stick to the schedule as long as we could. Because now we want to give the floor to the youth workers that Patricia was mentioning. And hear some of the inspirational stories about what they have done. I have chosen to share with you this quote that I think it's something that we have used along the way while working on this project. And now we will hear some stories from Romania and from Malta. And I will stop sharing the screen for a minute and invite Adriana to please speak first. Adriana from Romania.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adriana. I'm from a Romanian team, and my learning session was held in Iași using experiential learning. How I did this? I combining research with theater, but also chemical experiential workshop, and I give the high scholars and students a chance to get involved in this whole learning session, to be able to learn from what they need and how they need to learn. We all know that informal education and non-formal education are different. Like in formal education, the class, the stiffness, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's only one right answer. Well, in non-formal education is different, and they really like to learn differently. And they were so surprised when they need to be involved. And they were like, okay, I can do this, and I have to really think about it. Yes, you can think about it. You can have a proper vision about it, and you can express yourself. The target group, as I mentioned, were high schoolers and students, 16 to 20 years old, among who were people from disadvantaged categories. As feedback, they loved the learning session. They couldn't believe how different these two processes were, and how easy it is to learn something when you're engaged in it. And also, what I learned from this experience is the importance of taking breaks in educational process and the necessity of being flexible as a youth worker. Additionally, I realized that creativity and continuous feedback are essential. You need to have a proper communication with your participants, and you also need to be aware of their needs and their inputs, outputs, and how do they feel in this whole process. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. And now we're going to go to Malta and to Andrew to share your experience.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew from Malta, as Monica said. And today I will share my experience of how I built my lesson and how I delivered it to the audience that I managed to find in Gozo. So Gozo is a little island, sister island of Malta. While I was building the lesson, I was more focused on the points I wanted to target, and I wanted to understand how my audience would learn best and in certain environments with different communication structures. So I wanted to target youth entrepreneurs so they could build their business surrounding it with human rights in mind as well. So their business would be their science that they're building upon and how they could implement science and human rights in their business. The age was between 20 and 30. I couldn't find much younger. I think I had one 18-year-old who was quite interested as well, but the majority was between 20 and 30. So I had my points. I expanded on them, got some texts, images, videos, and also prepared some activities. Then, while I was preparing for the session, I provided a communication channel for the attendees, tried to keep up the excitement for the attendees to chat together while the session was being prepared. Also offer assistance in transportation or in means to actually be able to attend the session. During the session, I wanted to have a relaxing environment, so that was a target of the location, and I tried to not present a time limit to the session, so people won't feel like I have to leave or I need to be fast in my explanation and express themselves. I found that the icebreakers that we did, I think they accelerated communication instead of having a lot of emotional blocks for people that are shy in front of other people. And then when the session actually started, I introduced some chapters, explained and gave examples on each chapter. Of course, we had a break, some snacks, continued the conversation going on, so everyone's still getting their brains working. So we really enjoyed that. We had a really nice conversation about science in entrepreneurship and human rights. We also had some activities related onto that subject of human rights in entrepreneurship. We were discussing how one would aim to have a human rights centered business, what aims they would have. And then we had some discussions about every other business. So I would present my business with my ideal of human rights, and others would present feedback, and then I could discuss again, and we had this sort of conversation. And in the conclusions, we had some feedback. I had some feedback for me as delivering the lesson. Some said that I had some personal opinions which were better left out, but yes, that's a point to have when educating. I think it's best to leave just the points that are facts. And I think having the conversation on a personal level, I think people do express themselves and really enjoy working to express themselves. So they will think about something and they will have their own opinion immediately and start to find ways on how to project it onto the ongoing conversation and change how it's going. Or people like the attendees too want to affect the lesson if it's going in an unexciteful way, like it's boring, they will mention it, like, why don't we do this? Or and so I really think having this personal level included made the lesson better. I think that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing, Andrew, and thank you, Adriana. In the guide that we mentioned, you will find more details about Andrew's work and Adriana's work and advices from them, alongside with stories from 13 other youth workers. Each of them have done their learning session in a total different manner for a total different kind of audience. So their takeaways are pretty interesting because you can learn something from each one of them. You can use their advice and their suggestion and adapt the exercises to best suit your communities and your organization. And if you want to implement similar projects in your communities or are interested in the future collaboration, we have prepared a networking spreadsheet that my colleagues will share with you in the chat, and you also will receive it via email in the following days. So yeah, we can work together. I saw some messages in the chat about some of you presenting your organizations, and if you are interested in future collaboration, you can use this networking spreadsheet to connect with people that are now in this meeting. Now, let me tell you, this project would not have been possible without two people that we have here today, which is Ralica from Bulgaria and James from Malta, which have coordinated everything in their countries and worked to make sure that everything is going smoothly. So I know I'm going to ask them to say a few words about their experience and what this project has meant for their organizations. And I would start with Ralica because Bulgaria is closer to Romania. So that's the only reason. Please.
Thank you very much, Monica. And hello, everyone. Greetings from Sofia. It's quite hot in here. So I would like to share a little bit about organization's experience in this project. Actually, it was quite exciting working on this topic together with ASUR and Humanists Malta. This project was excellently coordinated and we had a really smooth working process. What was the biggest outcome for us was the topic is quite innovative and we came out with really great results. So during the process of coordinating the training, sending youth workers to the training and coordinating the local activities further on in Bulgaria, we managed actually to find out really different perspective of our work. So far, our organization has been quite experienced on the topic of human rights, and we've been having a really permanent target group of young people that were interested on this topic and having a lot of non-formal education activities and so on and so on. But actually, through this project, we managed to expand a lot and to invite to our, let's say, followers and to the people who attend our activities, also the young people interested in science. And this was very interesting because I was interviewing some of the attendees in the local sessions that were here in Bulgaria, and they said, okay, why we came to your event is that I'm totally and particularly interested in the science element. And now when I see this intersection with science and human rights and the way it was presented was quite innovative. So actually we could
not only reach new audiences and expand our know-how, but also provide innovative tools for our youth workers to be able to use in their daily life. And I really recommend everyone to check our best practice guide that has really amazing tools that were developed during the project by our youth workers. So more or less, this is from our side, and we were super happy to cooperate in this project.
Thank you so much. James, we would like to hear from you also.
Hi, yes, thanks. First of all, well done for these presentations. They are very, very detailed. I think you are giving a very good impression of what the project was about. I must say that I am very happy on behalf of Humanists Malta that we, as such a small island, but still a country, have been part of this project. And why I emphasize on the size is because we are quite small. So for those who have no idea about Malta, it's in the Mediterranean. It's made of 3 islands. 2 of them are habited. And we are very small. Like the main island is just 28 kilometers long. But still, such programs are very important for an association like us. So Humanists Malta is a local association where mainly we do 2 or 3 different activities. One is to support in secular celebrations. So that is when people would like to celebrate something in a non-religious way. And then there's also the part where we support people. This is something that we would like to increase in the coming years, also with the help of young people and youth workers. And to go along with this, we are there when it comes to raise awareness of human rights. As a secular association, we also believe a lot in science. So this project really fitted well. And we saw immediately that science is based on facts. And this raises some eyebrows sometimes, because to what extent are you ready to reach this fact? To what extent are you ready to help each other? And through this project, I remember a lot of discussions arose, even when the youth workers were doing the training in Romania, and this continued in their training sessions that they gave individually. In fact, I will try to keep my little speech very short, because I'm seeing that in the discussion on Zoom, there's already quite a heated debate, let's say. And I hope that many of you can intervene later about it. Whether it's science and human rights, how much they are related, how much we take them for granted. And this was one of my main concerns, even when doing the local study here, that it seems that many times we are taking this for granted. Let's not forget that whatever we are talking here, whether science is good, bad, it sometimes is taken for granted or not when it comes to human rights. Let's not forget that we humans are at the center of all of this. Maybe we have created all of this, and we tend sometimes to forget how this is impacting us. And such a program, thanks to Erasmus Plus, have given us the opportunity to see that we need learned experience. We need to revise ourselves. And I'm very happy that we as humanists, we are trying to involve much more young people into this, even young youth workers. And I'm very happy also that we have extended this project to the sister island of Malta. So like that, we have reached not only some marginal groups and some people of different maybe religious ethnicities and some minorities, but also to a group of youths that are part of this little island. Just imagine that sometimes if you are a youth in a little island, things may not be so accessible to you. So tell you the truth, I look forward to collaborate again, hopefully with these partners, and even maybe delve deeper into the subject, because even after we have done all this and we have the guidebook now, that even here many other social workers, youth workers are looking at it in a very interesting way, and they would like to start using it as well in some schools or youth centers. I hope that we can go in even more detail. When we talk about science, we are talking about a broad subject. So maybe we can see how even deeper and specific subjects in the science realm will impact human rights. Thank you very much.
As we conclude today's event, I want to thank you all for your active participation. It was impressive, and let's face it, it was inspiring to see people from so many countries coming together to discuss science and human rights and to learn from each other. We hope that you leave here today with new knowledge and practical tools to integrate science and human rights into youth education. And we hope that you will find the best practice guide useful for your activities, the ones that you do in your communities. Yeah, and please remember that this is just the beginning. We encourage you to stay connected and to collaborate on future projects. And on behalf of myself and my colleagues at the Romanian Secular-Humanist Association, I say thank you to our partners, the Values, Virtues, Integrity Foundation from Bulgaria, and to our partners from Humanists Malta. Thank you to the Erasmus Plus program, and of course, a big thank you to all of you for being here today. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.